Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to view Quantum Leap Season 1, Episode 1. I can say that this is technically a reboot of this show, but also it's retying in the original show to this show, which is freaking great. Because, of course, I thoroughly enjoyed the original Quantum Leap show. I remember when I was whatever age I was, just kind of seeing the Quantum Leap on when I had cable through a rerun on Sci-Fi, and I would just watch the heck out of that because I'm like, okay, like this is a show that I can watch. Like it's a pretty fun show. I like it, and like the show would in the intro break down everything that I needed to know about the show. So when I would actually watch the show, I wouldn't get confused of like, okay, like why is Al popping in? How is it that only Al can only be seen by Sam? And so on and so forth. Um, and like the intro would break that down. Where in this show, they must assume that the whole fan base of the original show knows every single thing about this Quantum Leap thing. And I'm like, that is stupid. You should easily break down the formula and everything of this show, and they couldn't have been bothered in this show to even break it down to Dr. Ben Song, who he is to have gone on and completely had amnesia and doesn't know what the heck is going on. They don't even break it down to him really, like, what is all of this? Like, how is it that only Ben can see Addison? And so on and so forth. And it's also kind of funny because right away in the pilot episode, we already have, like, the funny thing that was to always be done in the other Quantum Leap episodes, where we would have a character going on and be like, hey man, like, why are you talking to yourself so much? Like, oh yeah, I'm just giving myself a pep talk. Yeah, I'm just gonna like call somebody and it'll actually be Al. So on and so forth or Addison in this case. So, but anyways, so now for this episode, how did I feel about this first episode of this show? I honestly felt that this episode was exhausting. Thank God that this is only like a week to week thing. Because if I had to go on and have to like binge watch this show on some app somewhere, I would have probably given up fairly early. Because I do not understand why the leap part isn't the most important thing that should cover most of the episode, because we not only have the Dr. Ben Song stuff, the leap part, but we also have like the behind the scenes of the leap, which is to be the Addison part, which she is to be the hologram character, and we have to focus on so many side characters already in this pilot, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Like, where, like, in the original Quantum Leap, like, we would have Al reference Gushy or Ziggy or whatever, and that Al is trying to work something out with them, but we would never have a whole scene where, like, Al is consistently going to them throughout the episode. Is like, hey man, what are you guys trying to do? Like, how are you guys figuring it out? Like, like Sam doesn't know what he's gonna go on and do for this time period. Help me figure it out so I can give him something to say. Like, they never did that in the original show, but they're doing that here in this one, where Addison is going on and talking to guys like Ian Wright and Herbert Magic Williams, and like trying to put the pieces together of like, well, hey, like, who is this Nick guy that Ben has leaped into? Like, do you guys have any information on him? Oh, you just had this newspaper clipping? Okay, I guess I'll tell Ben that, because that's all we have. Yeah, like, it just feels like this show at some point needs to go on and find its footing, and hopefully it'll get that by within a number of episodes, or they're gonna have to just give me something really something that I can sink my teeth into, that is probably more of the focus of the leap, or just, in other words, like, because that that leap, the thing that they ended up doing, where we go on and we have Dr. Ben's song, who is to leap in a guy named Nick, some rando guy that they couldn't find information on. Come to find out, there's a whole reason for that, because this guy Nick isn't actually who he says he is, and so I'm like, so really, this guy has like another identity, and I'm like, like, so, like, man, how much stuff do you want to just cram down my throat through this episode? How much you want to just cram down there? Because I'm like, I'm getting so ticked within one whole episode, the pilot of this show. I'm just like, I would rather go back and watch the original. I like the flow of that other original show, and like, it was easy, it was simple, the breakdown was great. This show is a jumbled mess of a bunch of crap that I'm like, I don't care about all these secrets. I don't care about all of these things that they have to figure out in this show. Give me the leap, and I don't give a rip about anything else. Give me back what was originally the Leap show, the Quantum Leap show. So, for this first episode, we have Dr. Ben's song who leaps into a guy named Nick. Come to find out that this guy Nick is to be this getaway driver who is to be tied to a guy named Ryan, who is to do these heists or these robberies. And so Ben, it seems, is to, within this first leap, have amnesia. He doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know why he is, he doesn't know when he is. When we go on and we are to showcase that this is 1985, in all honesty, like, you can go on and slap stuff on a movie theater, just say, hey, yeah, Goonies and St. Elmo's Fire, and have some slapping of a poster or something, and tell me that this is the time of Live Aid and whatever, but like, none of this really felt like a 1985 show, really. Like, this just felt like for the most point, this felt like a 2022 cop show. This didn't feel like Quantum Leap to me. So yeah, this first episode was awful. This episode was so freaking bad, and like, I'm just like, man, what was the point of rebooting this? Because man, this episode was rough. So with that said, so they end up retying Sam to the show as a reference, and it seems that Al is to be retied in to say that a family member of his, a daughter of his, I think, is to go on and be doing this mission, and she was to possibly be the one connected to Ben's song, and why he had gone on and leaped, and why also Song had gone on to do this certain new kind of algorithm or this thing inside the uh, the Ziggy's computer and made it to where it seems that Ben's song could not easily get uh, to be uh, leaped out of him leaping into a person. So yeah, so with that said, I think I'm just gonna go on and go into spoilers about this one. I'm just gonna double five this bad boy up because it's about that time to just go into spoilers. One thing that I also want to say, Ernie Hudson's character. Ernie Hudson's character has the nickname Magic, and I don't know how much that they're actually referencing from the original show to this one, but the one thing that I do remember is that in the episode where Sam is to leap uh, into being a military guy, and come to find out this mission is to be his brother's mission, and Sam wants so desperately to save his own brother from dying from this mission because he, of course, did. And so Sam is trying to go on desperately and correct this. And so Sam, the character that he leaps into, the guys all called him Magic because for some weird reason, Magic would, of course, like know things before everyone else did, or like he would just have this weird thing about him that would be their good luck charm, and so somehow that worked out in that episode in that case. So I'm kind of wondering if that has any tie to the nickname that Ernie Hudson is given in here, or maybe just the fact that Ernie Hudson actually just is freaking Magic, because like Ernie Hudson is great. And it was great to see him on the show because I didn't go through the cast list. I wanted to just kind of go into this, just kind of roll into it, like, oh yeah, Ernie Hudson's in here, great. So, but now, so let's go on. Let's double five this bad boy up. Let's just go into spoilers. Awful episode, but at some point maybe it'll be better. I'm hoping. So let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time you spoil this first episode. So, in the very beginning of this, we have a party that these characters are all at. And I don't know exactly whose party that they're really throwing for is, but I'm assuming that this party has something to do with them finally being able to soon start the Quantum Leap project. Again, because in the beginning of this episode we have this this kind of thing that ends up setting up that Sam, of course, was to continue to leap on from person to person to person, and that he was to not be able to get reined in, and so they abandoned the project, and so now it seems that they're going to restart the whole Quantum Leap project again, and with this project will have me kind of break down something soon here, but let me get to the whole party thing. So, Dr. Ben's song is to be at this party, and like it's so secret that they can't go on and tell people that they're doing this time travel project. Like we have one woman who ends up stating that Magic is to be this video game developer because she can't go on and actually say that he is to be a part of the project that deals with time travel. And so Dr. Ben's song is to then take Addison and is to do a speech where he is to mention about the laws of entanglement. And so Ben is to go on and do this whole like science explanation of this whole thing, and then is to supposedly be romantic, even though this guy is to be more scientific. So we then are to have Ben tell Addison that he wants to kind of leave this party and grab a thing of alcohol and just like um, kind of get away. And Addison's like, well, I think we can go on and do something like that. Maybe not right now, but maybe later. But so it seems that Addison was like, well, I think we can get that alcohol after all. So the next thing that we end up seeing is that Dr. Ben Song has leaped. And so Song is to leap into a guy named Nick. And he, of course, is in this getaway car, and Ryan ends up getting into the passenger seat, and we, of course, have Nick, who is like, well, hey, like, who am I? What am I doing here? And Ryan's like, yeah, I ask myself those questions any day or every day. Like Ryan says, it's like, well, yeah, like how is it that all of these decisions got me to this point, and so on and so forth. And so Ryan is to like talk kind of philosophy with Nick, and we have where Nick is to possibly think it's like, well, like, am I making a mistake? Am I not making a mistake? But Nick goes on and takes and puts on this ski mask and is to go on to rob this bank with a number of people. And so we have Song, who gets out of his car and he's like, what's going on? And we all of a sudden have the cinema that has Goonies / St. Elmo's Fire. We of course have the poster that is showcased the time period, but then also we had the little TV that showcased Live Aid that was to tell us that this is to be the time period it is, but okay, sure. So Song is to all of a sudden be very confused, and Addison is to make her way there and just like, hey, like, why did you go on and you leaped? Like, we weren't prepared for this. And like also like why did you do what you did? And Song is like, what are you talking about? It's like, who are you? And Addison's like, oh my god, like, you don't remember who you are. You don't remember anything, do you? And Song is like, no, I don't know anything. And Addison's like, oh my god, like, yeah, like, we kind of figured that amnesia would be a side effect of leaping, but like, we weren't sure. So cue Addison seeing these thugs make their way into this vehicle, and they're yelling for Nick to get into this car. And so Addison is going on and telling Nick, or Song in this case, to just get into the car and drive. So Song gets into the car and doesn't know even how to work a stick shift. So Addison has to go on and explain to Nick, or explain to Song how to drive. So Nick is to go on and pop these things into clutch and all these things, and he also has to like do this very well because there's a number of cop cars that are behind him. And so luckily we figured out a way to have this getaway driver get away from these police officers in a very like not so well done way. Um, but Ryan is yelling to Song to want to get them to his restaurant, but Song is explaining that he needs to ditch these police and then be able to uh, figure out a way to sneak back to Ryan's restaurant. So Song, of course, does ditch these police, and so they end up in the back entrance to this restaurant, and so Ryan is to say it's like, hey, good job, buddy, and even though like it seems that Nick had kind of missed a step, because he wasn't his usual self, so we immediately think uh, that Ben is to assume that he's all done here. And Ryan's like, oh no, like that's just the start. Like that's just one part of what we have to go on and do. And Ben is like, oh great, more of this. So we have Ryan who leaves, and so we of course have Song who's talking to Addison and trying to go on and fill him in a little bit, to just go on and say like, yeah, like I am like a hologram that only you and that only you can see, and we'll see if they end up tying in like children or dogs in future episodes, because that's Al could be seen by dogs and could be seen by babies for or young kids for some reason. And I'm wondering if they're going to work that into the show somehow, so that way it's similar to the other show. But yeah, so Addison tries to go on and is to take Ben into this bathroom, and is to explain that uh, that I almost want to say Scott Bakula consistently, that Sam Beckett was to be the original Quantum Leap guy who went on to travel back in time to put right what once went wrong, giving us the intro of the other show into this one. And so, because like that was a really easy way to break the show down, and this show should honestly figure out a way to do the freaking same, because it doesn't break down the show at all. It's just like, hey, yeah, remember that other show? You should watch that. You really should. So we now have some downtime for of course Ben here. So now we have Addison and all the people on the other on the other end of things in 2022 current time, and so I'll have to try to figure out how to decipher between what is 85 and what is 2022. So, or in this case, whenever the most current year is, for whenever people are to see this in the future. So, Addison is to talk to the tech guys, is to talk to Ian Wright and all these tech people to try to figure out like who exactly Nick Rounder is. And so come to find out, they found no information on Nick Rounder, but they found out information on the other guy, who is Ryan, that at some point he had gone on and had these explosives go off at this certain robbery, and this guy ended up going on to like things did not go well for him, to the point of him possibly dying during this crime that he was doing. So Addison's like, okay, so like the information that I'm getting is that we're gonna have to go on and try to convince Ryan to not go along with this robbery so he won't get killed, and then maybe after that Song will leap after that doing that. So we also have Ian that is to talk to Magic, or Ernie Hudson's character, and Ian is to have found out that Song was to go on and put something in to things to kind of change how the quantum leap thing is to be done, to where this guy puts so much stuff into this computer to make it very difficult for them to try to rein in Song, which of course is just like the other show. And so Ian is to be talking that Ian can't figure it out, and so he is to, of course, be in this kind of similar mix up, like him going on and taking mushrooms at some point, and Magic is like, huh? And Ian's like, oh yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that I had mushrooms at one point. And Magic is just like, you know what, like, that's okay. Just figure it out. Just put it together. So we also have Jen, who is talking to Magic, and Jen, who is to be this security officer, is to mention how there is to be this person who was working with Song when Song went in here to leap by himself, and the person who was to make Song go in here and leap has a specific ring, because that's the only image that they could really gotten off of this camera, or this thing that they got from. So somehow Ernie Hudson's character Magic is to realize that this ring has to be military. And so there must be some military person working with Song to have done what they had done to try to break into the Quantum Leap lab, to have, of course, Song leap. Because we come to find out that Addison was supposed to be the person who was going to leap, and Song was actually supposed to be, like, Song and Addison's roles should have been reversed, where Addison should have actually been the Sam Beckett character, and Ben should have been the Al character, but it didn't go that way, and Addison has to explain that to Song when they're together in the leap. So come to find out, Magic by the end of this episode is to find out from Jen that this military ring is to actually be tied with Al from the original show. That this was to be Al's military ring, and so they have to figure out, it's like, okay, so like Al's relative or daughter or something like that must be going on and to have done this mission, and we need to go and find her so we can figure out what they did to change or mix within the Quantum Leap algorithm to now have Song be a person that we can't reel back in. And I'm assuming immediately that this is going to be a thing that they cannot fix. I don't think that they're going to immediately just fish back Song. That wouldn't make sense. Because I'm assuming that they're going to try to fit this show to be just like the original, to where we're going to have Ben not be able to just leap his way back home. Hence why you will always have that song or that intro in the original one where it's like, maybe Sam's next leap will be the leap home, and so on and so forth. But I would like to think also that Ben, like how I thought that, like Sam, how they would end the show would just be that, like, Sam, like, completed everything, and so Sam just leaped back into Sam because there was nothing else for him to go on and do. Like, all the good was to be accomplished. But it doesn't really seem like that because, of course, we have, like, Ben who's going back into 1985. So, like, there's obviously, and also I'm kind of interested to, like, there's so much, like, Easter egg stuff that I want to kind of figure out about this show. Like, I'm kind of curious if the date that they even chose for this first pilot episode might have had a connection with anything to do with the Quantum Leap show. Like, maybe in 1985, like, that's when, like, the Quantum Leap show ended. I don't know. Or maybe that's when the Quantum Leap show was a thing. I don't know. But that would be, like, interesting information, because again, I want Easter eggs for this show, because, like, I could really care about the show right now. In all honesty. But go ahead and somebody Google that, and when we have, like, the next week's episode, I'll go on and rebuttal and just be like, oh yeah, like, the year that they went into was to be, of course, the premiere of the first episode, or the finale of the last episode was to be that date. It's like, ooh, wow, how great is that? Because I don't know when exactly the show ended or started or whatever, but anyways, pushing on. So, back with, because I covered all of the behind the scenes crap that I didn't like. So now let's go on and let's go back into the leap. So, Ben is to go on and meet with Charlie and Pete, and kind of meet these guys that he's working with. And so, come to find out, before that, Song is to talk to Addison and get the kind of the information that he needs about quantum leaping and everything like that. But then, so, and try to, like, break down, like how he is to have been this person that is to leap into somebody, but he has no idea about quantum leaping or anything. You would think that if he was really that smart, that he would go on and figure out a way for a person to not have amnesia so they wouldn't know anything. But anyways, so Ben is to go on and after talking to Addison, we again have Ryan that interrupts, is like, hey, you talking to yourself? And Ben is like, well, I'm just giving myself a pep talk. So Ben goes on to meet with these guys, and come to find out, they realize that Nick isn't who he actually says he is, that he's actually some undercover cop named Matt. So they immediately end up checking that he has a wire on him, because it's like, well, that could justify why he's talking to himself so much, is because he's wearing a wire. So they check Ben, and he's not wearing a wire. So, like, okay, like, so since, like, this guy's obviously not wearing a wire, we should just put him somewhere so he won't conflict with what we're trying to do, which of course is going to try and steal this Hope Diamond. And so, come to find out, Addison and Magic are to know something about the Hope Diamond. That it seems that at one point, Magic was to have gone on and known about this operation where the Hope Diamond at some point had gotten stolen, and because the government did not want to go on and fork over the insurance to cover that loss, instead they went on to find some fake Hope Diamond to give to these people to just say, oh no, wait, here's the real Hope Diamond. And they gave them a fake one so that way they wouldn't have to cover like the $500 million, whatever price the insurance would have been. And so, yeah, so evidently Magic knew something about the Hope Diamond for some goofy reason. And so, and they end up calling it like Blue Glass was to be the operation. So we have Addison that is to be with Ben as he is to now have this zip tie. And you would think if Ben would be this undercover cop, you would think that Ben, after he would get like away from wherever he was held at, you would think then Ben would go on and like get his cops involved and do like what a normal cop does, like actually go to the precinct and kind of let everybody know what's going on. But no, Ben doesn't do any of that stuff. So this is a cop show for the most part because it doesn't feel like a Quantum Leap show. It just feels like a normal cop show. But the funny thing is, like, Ben isn't doing any of the normal cop things that a cop would do. So it's bizarrely a cop show where the person doesn't actually do what they're supposed to do, which is any cop thing. So, sorry about that drink there. So, I'm taking so much time explaining this show. This episode was only 42 minutes, so let's rush to finish up the show, but I feel like I'm almost done. I'm almost home. So, we have Ben who is tied, he's zip-tied into this plastic thing. He ends up figuring out a way to scientifically, break the zip tie. Ben then is to run off to get to where Ryan is with this kind of gala to try to stop Ryan from stealing this Hope Diamond and to try to call this crime off. And because Ben was almost tempted to just call the police and state what they are doing, and Addison is to say it's like this is a 99% chance that if you go on and you make this call, you can leap. And Ben is like, well, no, like it's not just about me leaping, like it's about the person that I end up getting tied to, which is Ryan, because Song is to notice that Ryan has a family, and it seems that his wife is to be ill, and they really needed whatever payment from Ryan's gig to be able to afford like their next medical payment for this family. And so it's like, oh, okay, that's sympathetic. So we have Song who makes his way to this gallery, and we have Ben who's trying to talk to Ryan, trying to convince him to not to go through with this. But then we have Song who finds Charlie, one of the thugs, and Ben is to ask Addison if he can dance, and so it seems that he can. So But also, Ben and Addison had this conversation where Addison explained to Ben about the mistake he had done before he leaped, and that also Addison is trying to jog Ben's memory to try to figure out what he did before he leaped. And Ben's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Addison ends up telling Ben, it's like, well, hey, I was supposed to leap, not you. You were supposed to be in my position. I was supposed to be in yours. So, like, this doesn't make any sense. So, anyways, we have Ben dancing with Charlie. And so we have a point where Ben is trying to stop Charlie, is trying to preserve history, and instead it seems Charlie decides that she's going to fire a gun into the air, scaring a bunch of people from out of this place, and we have our characters go on and steal the Hope Diamond anyways. And we had Ben, who was to knock out Pete, who was to be the guy to help the other bad guys escape out of there. So we have this gun being fired in the air, and so Song immediately kind of forgets about the bad guy, and instead Song ends up telling Ryan that there are going to be people who are going to be running out of this gallery, and that Ben needs to go on and ask Ryan where the vehicle with this bomb is, because more than likely people are going to be hurt with the C4 explosives that they had, that they revealed that they were going to use with this new heist. And so Ryan tells Ben where the bomb is, and so now Ben has to try to defuse this bomb, and he doesn't have enough time to. So Ben tells Ryan to uncover this sewer lid, and so Ben ends up tossing this bomb into this sewer. It explodes, and it seems right after that, it seems that that completes the leap. That now Song can go on and like change Ryan's timeline to where he is to not go to prison, that he is to even go on and regain his restaurant and regain his business and all kinds of things, so he doesn't have to go on and be a thief anymore, that he's going to go the straight and narrow, and so on and so forth. So we then have Song who leaps and then leaps into an astronaut. And so again, we have a moment where we have Song who is to, I think, instead of end up saying like "oh boy," I think he ends up saying "oh like he says "oh crap" like in words. And I'm like, wait a minute, so he's not going to say "oh boy" by the end of every episode? He's going to come up with his own thing, which is stupid. Like, I liked the "oh boy." The "oh boy, oh boy." Yeah, I like that at the end of every episode. But now we're not doing that? That's stupid. So, with that said, yeah, like this was an episode. I'm gonna get out of here so I can try to get and beat the, like, I think this first one is gonna be very long, but the rest will be short. I'm sorry that this is so long. I get that the first episode is 42 minutes and I'm talking for 45 now almost. So I'm gonna try to get out of here. I apologize for the length of the video, but I'm just gonna go. Bye everybody. Bye everybody.